Welcome back to Morning Express on this first day of October. I'm now joined in studio by KTN business anchor Bonny Tunya. Good to see you early. I don't think bright and early. Have you been awake at this time and in studio?
Well, first, coming for this show has made a lot of changes in my life, adjustments, and many thanks for having me here. It's a great bulletin. I mean, there's tea, coffee served. I mean, we don't get that at night.
All right. Well, we know the inflation numbers went up yesterday, Bonny, and the reason we have you here today, every Tuesday we have your money segment. And so we want to break down to Kenyans what this rise in these numbers means, how it affects our economy and every person's particular life and business as well, investment, all of that. So I know you have a guest waiting. Right.
I have my friend Muammar Ismaili from Genghis Capital. And Sophia, inflation affects your life because basically these are few goods just by a lot of money. So, I mean, the cost of living goes high, and those are the numbers we saw, 8.29. It's risen way past the government's expected or preferred limit of just about 5%. But Muammar is here to give us all those figures.
Take it away.
All right, and it is time for Your Money. Muammar Ismaili from Genghis Capital joins me now from our I&M studios to help me unpackage these numbers. Now, just a quick recap is that yesterday, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics released the monthly inflation figures, and for September, the number was 8.29%. Well, this is way higher because the government is preferring it to be in the region of 5%. They attributed this to, among other things, VAT that was recently brought into act this month. And Muammar Ismaili joins me right now from the I&M studio. Sir, if you can hear me, very good morning and many thanks for making time for us. But Muammar, 8.29, does that figure worry you?
Yes, it's well above the government target of 5%, as you mentioned earlier, and I think over the long run it's not going to be sustainable. The government has to try and find a way to maintain inflation at least below 10%. However, if you look at inflation, it's not such a bad thing that it's gone up. Some people may take the perspective that private sector has grown, and therefore you have inflation growing with the private sector. But we know that this particular inflation has gone up because of all these taxation measures that have introduced as a result of the budget, especially VAT.
Right, Muammar, amongst other things they attributed this rise was a VAT that came up into act just last month, and of course this rise, 8.2, is the highest we've seen in 4 months. Please draw to us the picture, the relationship between VAT and inflation figures for September.
Well, I mean, if you look at the CPI, the way it's calculated, you have 36% of the average inflation basket basically makes up, the formula that they use. 36% of that is food and non-alcoholic beverages. 18% of that is utilities, things like electricity and water. And you'll find the components of these particular baskets actually form a large part of what the common wananchi spends their money on. So if you look at things like bread, which has gone up from 45 to 50 shillings. If you look at milk, that's gone up from 35 to I think 45. Then sugar, flour, there's an endless list of basic goods that a lot of people spend their money on. And if you look at the price differentials on a daily basis, it's pretty small. But if you look at the cumulative effect on a monthly basis, for people who earn between 7,000 to 10,000 shillings, it's pretty high. So at the end of the day, it's a huge effect, and that's where the relation comes in.
Right, Muammar, when the Cabinet Secretary was proposing VAT 2013 and 2012 or 2013, he said VAT as an act will bring about 10 billion shillings into the economy. When we are looking at the impact it's already having on inflation figures, is this counterproductive in the long term?
I think it is to an extent. If they manage to maintain the inflation rate below sustainable levels, and by sustainable I'm talking about 10%, as much as it's 5%, I think we can now look at 10%, then they may be able to achieve their long-term objectives of actually increasing tax collections. But if it rises above that, you now look at the Central Bank of Kenya having to increase the policy rate from 8.5% where it is now, towards, upward towards 10%, 11%, and then you have an effect of commercial lending rates going up as well, which increases the cost of borrowing. Investments are affected, and on the whole, aggregate demand comes down, revenue tax collections come down, and the government is unable to carry out its mandate that it would have had as a result of the increasing the tax, the VAT.
Right, Muammar, you've mentioned the central bank in this conversation. Let's just bring it in right now. We are looking at 8.2%, a clear indication that we're not going to see the central bank rate go down anytime soon. Do that effect to the local borrower who's trying to do business, and harsh times are ahead for Kenyan business people?
Yes, it does. I mean, depositors will demand higher savings rates. The banks will probably in turn increase their commercial lending rates. Some people may be able to still afford credit at those commercial lending rates, but you'll find some people actually freezing a lot of projects that they have. Some people will even probably freeze recruitment in some cases. So businesses in the end are affected. If my operating costs go up and I want to maintain the same margins, I have to find a way, something to change. So I think across the board, investments will be affected, businesses will be affected, the level of employment will also be affected.
Right, Muammar, still on the central bank issue, granted that probably inflation may keep on this particular rate for the next few months, what can the central bank do to ensure that the rates are favorable for business in the country, that as much as there is headline inflation month on month, we ensure that the Kenyan businessmen are protected per se?
I think it's important for them to be very reactionary and proactive. What we had last year, or between 2011 and 2012, is they took a very relaxed stance in terms of monetary policy. So you'd find delayed movements in terms of the monetary policy. But this time, I think they're monitoring the situation very closely. And if they see inflation rising way above their targets, I think they should come into the markets quickly and increase the CBR rates proportionately.
Right, Muammar, as we finish, very quickly comment about the market, the stock market as we're seeing currently. We didn't see a lot of activity as far as the Forex goes, but what are the counters to watch out for today?
I'll be looking at counters like carb acid, Centum. I think there's a lot of value in both of these stocks that is yet to be unlocked. Centum in the case of the investments in the property sector, carb acid in their investment in the provision of CO2, which is related to the production of soft drinks and a lot of other industrial goods. So I think these are both counters that people can look on with a small upside potential between now and the end of the year.
All right, Forex?
Sorry?
What about Forex? What do you expect? Any significant movement today?
Yeah, I think we saw the Forex come down primarily because of the end year. There's a demand at the end of the year that comes from importers. But as we get into the month, you'll see that demand go back up. So I think in terms of Forex, you probably expect it to range between 86 and 87 when you're talking about the USD Kenya shilling pair.
All right. Muammar Ismaili from Genghis Capital, many thanks for making time and for helping us understand what is happening and what that 8.29 figure actually means to the lives of Kenyans. Many thanks, Muammar, for coming to Your Money on KTN.
Thank you.
Right, Sophia, 8.29%, you've seen how it affects you. Probably it is time to tighten your belt, but good news that at least last week the prices of milk came down, so I mean there's a bit of reprieve.
Yeah, and there was actually that the people had not actually gotten to understand that there was the prices came down for milk. What else was it?
Milk and bread, basically milk and wheat. And their explanation was when you preserve milk and put it in the packages that we have, you buy in the supermarket, you've basically pasteurized it. So it is not too much of value addition. That was the explanation. But really, also we do understand it comes from a point of trying to, cushion the poor person. So really, it was a good thing. It was covered with all the Westgate story that we're doing. Yes. But still, again, it was something good to look out for the ordinary Kenyan.
All right. Thank you very much, Bonny. Waking up bright and early, being
There's
here
always
for
tea
Your
every
Money.
Tuesday?
There's always tea every Tuesday. So every Tuesday you come,
all right.
Tea. Next time maybe we'll find a snack.
I'll hold you to that one.
Maybe
Many
a croissant.
thanks. All right.
All right. We take a short break now. When we return, actually not a break, we're going to go to business news in a short while.